So we're with this whole concept of Mashiach. So, we do have some differences of opinions of, that final war, so to speak, before Mashiach comes. And we call it Gog Magog, and we said it's not Gog against Magog, it's a king of Magog. And basically what the Torah tells us is like, let's talk about the fighting parties in the story. So the fighting parties in the story will be Edom, like Western civilization, who Esav is the father of, right? And he will be fighting with Yishmael, which is the Muslim world. And then together they're going to come to fight finally against the land of Israel, which means against us. So that's what we see when we talk about this war, how severe it will be. So some rabbis say that a lot of it happened during World War I and during World War II. So there was a part of that, let's say, negative energy used, right? Or cleansing energy used, but there still is some more to come. Okay, so when we're looking at all this, like what we want to do is know how to survive it. So if you would Google right now, if we just took a minute, we Googled. So you Google how to survive a nuclear war. There are people who built themselves bunkers and they have these houses made out of, I don't know what, all kinds of cement. And inside there's thousands of cans of beans, and packages of noodles and all this kind of stuff that they have prepared, right, in case of this nuclear disaster. So we want to talk about that today. So how would we prepare for this incredible reality, right, of Mashiach coming and bringing the end of evil, the birth of incredible goodness, the understanding that there's one creator, one supervisor, one who's in our lives, one sustainer. There's such, really, if you think about it, there's a very happy ending to the story, right? So the question is, though, how do we survive that time, right? That time period where this big cleansing is going to happen, and it will happen. Because what do we say everything in our lives is? Everything in our lives really is just a consequence to our choices. In other words, Hashem gave you a lot of incredible power. And that power is what you do matters. Right? And he tells you up front, it's not like this is a surprise. Hashem says, look, you do these kinds of things, these kinds of energies come to the world. You gossip about people, you bring negativity to the world. You use your language in a foul way, you create very negative angels. Janaim, you create negative energies. And I think people, if we're all honest, we see it. So Torah tells you that happens in many ways when it comes to keeping Torah and mitzvahs. Right? Eating kosher is food for your soul. If you don't eat kosher, then know that the food you're eating is blocking your soul's ability to really understand. Just like junk food blocks the arteries of your heart. If you think about it, non-kosher food does the same for the spiritual heart that you have. Do you see what I mean? So everything comes with a consequence. So what we want to look at is, we're not going to Google how to survive a nuclear disaster, but we are going to learn how to survive this incredible time. Okay? So what we're going to do as Jews, what really is demanded of us, is to fight spiritually the negative energies that Western civilization brings to the table and that Islam brings to the table. That's what our job is. And that was how we would survive best. So for instance, what's the main characteristic of Esav? Like we said, Esav is a Molech. Esav is Edom. What was the Roman Empire? What's their main characteristic? Is arrogance. Okay? They're very arrogant people. Amalek is so arrogant that it really feels like that's a nation that says, you know what, we don't need God, we're smarter. Okay, that's the Hitler reality. You know what I mean? I know everything. I know what has to be destroyed. Gets rid of the Jewish people because they give you a conscience. And if I get rid of this conscience, then we're not going to, we have nothing to battle with, right? Because I know best. And what is best is might is right. Right? Might is right. You kill everything that's weak. You kill everything that doesn't have any, you have no chesed, like a world with no mercy. As long as I'm on the top, that's fine. Okay. So it's a very arrogant time. Now, if you take a look at the words that people throw around all day, is pride. Okay, we have a pride, we have a pride, we have a pride. Okay, we're all full of so much pride. Okay, and what are we very proud of? Whatever we think is right, right? We're going to march around and we're going to tell the whole world, this is the way you're supposed to behave. No, this is the way you're supposed to behave. No, this is the way you're supposed to behave. No, we're right. No, we're right. No, you're racist. No, you're this. No, you're that. Like, right? So there's a lot of that in the world, right? What does Yishmol represent? Yishmol is lust, okay? Yishmol is lust. Like, they want things that don't belong to them, and they like to say it does, right? Why does it? Because we want it. So suddenly Israel belongs to them, right? Suddenly it's Palestine, when really these people are Arabs from different Arab countries. There was no such thing as Palestine. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just an interesting reality, right? So they want what you can't have, right? The way they treat women, right? They want them only for objects, but they don't want them for anything else, right? Like, we don't give any women's rights. The way they will terrorize people, like, if we want it, we will murder, we will kill, we will do whatever we have to. We have lusts and we have desires. So right now, if you had to look at the spiritual war, what are you battling? You're battling arrogance and you're battling lust. So if you're going to look into how am I going to survive this time? How am I going to be able to fight these two things? Because guess what? They're in us too. Okay, so we're in an environment, right, that really, really, really encourages these two character traits. True or false? True. Okay, so how do you see lust? I'm being honest. How do you see lust everywhere? How do you see it?
The way people are dressing.
Okay, perfect. So people dress like half naked, like it's really gross. And now what I'm finding so funny is bad enough that women were doing it. Now they're making like this whole new, a whole new genre of, what's it called? What are those called? Like, men who dress like flashy women, very provocative, drag. Like now drag, like I can't understand how they could, want drag queens to read stories in preschools. Like, why? Like, I don't understand it. Were we missing something? I don't think so. Like, I don't think when your teacher sat there and read your little preschool story that anything bad was happening. I don't think the kids were missing anything. Do you know what I mean? Now they're going to watch, all kinds of men with mustaches in bikinis and in weird clothes. Okay. Like showing body parts they shouldn't be showing, right? Like, I don't see what that's a positive act. Okay. So you
that they are trying to justify themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of that because there's a lot of arrogance, you know what I mean? Like, I am what I am, and that's it. You have to accept me for who I am no matter what, like even if I do things that are not correct. Okay, so yes, okay, so very well said. So, and you can see the way people dress, the way women dress, the way men dress. Where else do you see a lot of lust and desires? Where do you see like people being like sucked into it all?
Lust for objects.
Yeah, lust for objects. Good for you.
Nicer cars.
Yeah, nicer car, nice. So this is a whole materialistic lust. Excellent. Okay, excellent. Where people, right, and lust to look like, you're obsessed with, one extra wrinkle, like we all are, like we're like obsessed with all this stuff. Okay, so there's an incredible amount of lust. Where do you see a lot of arrogance?
Social media.
Yeah. Okay. Who we cancel, who we this, I'm the one who's right. You don't say anything. I can cancel you. I can this you. I can that you. A lot of arrogance, like this idea, like I told you, like that, it bugs me so much that you can walk into a store and steal $900 worth of stuff and then walk out. That's like incredible arrogance. Like it's just a lot of arrogance. The Torah tells you at the end of days, you will see a lot of chutzpah in kids. like if you speak to any teacher today, they tell you it's another world. Like they're having such a hard time dealing with the kids, even in preschool. Like, when kids were a little bit scared of the teacher, they have no fear of adults at all. Like you'll see, like kids will say very chutzpahdik things, right? Like beyond, right? Like they always feel like, I don't know, like it's all they're entitled to everything. So there's not a lot of gratitude. There's a lot of chutzpah, right? Chutzpah comes from a lot of arrogance. So it's really scary, It's not an easy trait, right? What else do they say? They say like people will be like dogs. What's with dogs? They're always sniffing. They're always like smelling to see what's around in the material world. So that's this idea of what, as Suzanne said, like, people are going to be running after a lot of materialism. They're going to be very physical. And that has to do also with a lot of lusts and arrogance. Like I have to have everything and I have to be the best and I have to. So these are really like, they're big issues and you can really see it today. Right? The Torah says you will find places for very deviant sexual behavior. You have that today. Like, up front, once upon a time, right? Like, remember once upon a time, if people wanted to buy magazines that were not, the best, they would be in the back of the store and then you'd put it in a brown paper bag. Today, every single magazine looks that way. I mean, there's no brown paper bag. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is like up front and in your face 24/7, right? So
There
all
is
of
no
those
fear.
Say
There is
that.
no fear of
Yes.
any kind of consequence.
Amazing, Gina.
It used to be that people would hide those kind of things,
Exactly.
but now it's
They have some
right
shame.
on in the front.
Right up front. Like everything goes. It doesn't matter. Everything goes. Like today, you should say anything you want, talk to anybody you want, swear at anybody, yell at anybody. You could scream at your fireman and your policeman and you're this and you're that. Like there's just nothing, everybody's a target, so to speak. Everybody's got a target on their back. If you don't like what they've done, I'll sue you, I'll this you, I'll that you, you can even see the way the little kids talk. Like when you say something like, oh, I was a little upset with this. Oh, I'm going to kill him. You know what I mean? Do you ever hear that? You should sue them. Like you just like little kids even talk this way. So it's just an interesting idea. So the question is like, how do we survive? Okay, because you're in a world that these character traits are so loud and so obvious and they're surrounding you that it's very easy for you to fall into them. Okay, like remember we always say that when you walk into the fish store and it first smells, you notice it, right? But 10 seconds later you're smelling like the fish yourself and you don't even think anything smells. So that's why we need to survive it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's sometimes even harder to survive a threat that's so insidious. You know what I mean? That's like, it's just on your phone. It's just on your this, it's just on the road. It's just, do you know what I mean? And you just sort of like, you squeeze yourself in between it, and you just get yourself comfortable. Okay, this is the new reality. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so people are going to do this. Okay, this is what's going to happen. And you squeeze yourself in, right? And then you start to think,
It's normal.
oh, well, it is what it is. Right? We got to be very careful, like very careful, because that's what they're trying to tell you. The rabbis are trying to tell you this is a very unique time in history, and you want to make it to the other side. And remember, it says it could, chas v'shalom, and I really daven with all my heart, it shouldn't mimic this, that it will mimic what happened in Egypt, where there was only 20% of the Jews who stood the test and got out. And I'm really davening we all get out, including ourselves, because we can't take anything for granted. Do you know what I mean? We can't take for granted. Like we got to know that we're going to have our eyes open, right? And we're going to have to be prepared. So let's think of the ways. That's very nice. Like the rabbis tell you ways what to put into your survival kit. Okay, so everybody, we're ready. We're going to start putting things into our survival kit to be able to fight these ideas. Okay. So it says like this. It's very, and just very interesting before we get there, just before I forget, we have to know that when Hashem created the world and he had the Torah, he really went to every nation and he really said to each one of them, how about this gift? Okay, free gift. Okay, I'm going to give you the Torah. And this is going to make you what? What's the gift of getting the Torah? What's so wonderful about having it?
Get a person.
Number one, you're a better person. More?
You come
that's
closer to Hashem.
normal.
Yeah, you come closer to Hashem. There's no greater pleasure than that, right? You actualize your potential. Okay, so when you have purpose and you have meaning, it's like a different ball game, a completely different ball game, right? And it's eternal. Okay, so this is like a whoa, you're not just going on a little journey, you're going on this forever. So it's an amazing reality. So Hashem wants to share it with everybody. And he bedafka, okay, goes to each nation and touches their emotional sunburn. Why does he do that on purpose? Like he goes to Esav, right? And what does the Torah tell you? The Yadayim Yadei Esav. Esav is a man of the sword. The Torah tells you he's a man of the sword. He's a hunter. He's a killer. All right. And he says to Esav, would you like the Torah? They say it's like the angel of Esav, his representative. Would you like the Torah? And the angel says, well, what's in it? Hey, fair enough. Fair enough. You ask what's in it. And you know what Hashem answers? Do not murder. So you just touched my emotional sunburn. So what does Esav say?
Not for me, thank
No,
you.
not for me. No, thanks. Like, right? Because what is the Torah? It's hard work, right? It's taking your emotional sunburn and cooling it off. And saying, you know what, I can't live with my emotional sunburn. I'm going to have to work on myself. I have to get rid of this emotional sunburn, right? I don't have to jump at every little touch. I've got to realize like, whoa, maybe when I was younger, yeah, I was insecure. I was this, I was that. If you said this to me, you said that to me, but I can't use that as an excuse forever, right? So then Hashem goes to Yishmael, right? To Muslim country, Muslim angel, the angel of Yishmael. And he says to him, okay, would you like the Torah? And he says, what's in it? What does Hashem say? Can't steal. He goes, no, that's not the way I work. When I want something, I take it. So I'm not taking Torah. Goes to Ammon and Moab. And he says, what's in it? You can't commit adultery. Forget it. Like, these are our vices, right? And then he goes to the Jewish people and we say, Naseh v'nishma. We don't even ask what's in it. We say, you know what, God, you're the creator of the world. You know what you're doing. We're in. Okay. And for that, we became the chosen people. All right. So now you're going to be we're in, not we're going to be. We and our children are in. Okay. And our families are in this very coercive, poisonous environment, right? That's full of arrogance and full of lust. And now we have to navigate through it, right? We got to navigate. We got to end up on the other side. So what are the antidotes? What does the Torah tell you is the antidotes to these character traits? Like, how can we work on them? How can we work on that emotional sunburn? How can we work on like not falling into this stuff? So number one, to fight pride and arrogance. You know what the Torah tells you? What do you think? Learn Torah. Right? Why would learning Torah make you less arrogant? Why would learning Torah make you less arrogant?
Because it teaches you exactly how to be. It's got all the rules in it.
Okay, so it has all the rules in it, but what's so special about that? Like when you look at it, what do you end up saying? Like, wow, that makes sense. And sometimes it doesn't, but because it makes sense so often, you could say for the parts that don't make sense, that's God's stuff. You know what I mean? In other words, Torah gives you humility. Yes or no? I think it's the
Gives
most
you a
humbling thing in the
code.
world, right?
A code of living.
Yes, it gives you a code and it gives you humility because you realize, I thought I was smarter. I thought taking revenge on people was the best thing on earth. I thought I'd feel amazing when I took revenge. And at the end, it only made me more sick. I thought holding a grudge was great. I thought telling people off was the best thing in the world. And now I realize I'm all alone and bitter, right? What would the Torah tell me to do? Oh, how does the Torah tell you to stay safe in a marriage? How does the Torah tell you? Oh, learn what love is. Learn is seeing the virtues in other. Loving someone is seeing virtues. Love is giving. Oh, I thought love was taking. I thought love was just all about me. And I only cared about you giving to me. Well, when you do that, then you don't have a marriage. Do you see what I'm saying? So you start like being humbled because you start realizing, oh my gosh, Like, look at this mountain of information. Like, look what the Torah teaches you. Teach your children to swim, not only physically so that they should be safe. No, teach them to swim through crisis, to survive, to swim, right? Don't be a helicopter parent and take care of them every single second so they have no independence and now they're just marshmallow fluff and they don't know how to handle life. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So Torah has so many ideas and understandings that resonate with you because you know what? God knows your soul and your body. So when people learn Torah, they're like, whoa, you know, like so many things today are just catching up to Torah. In fact, the Torah tells you like sexual promiscuity isn't going to make you happy, right? Sleeping around with every Tom, Dick, and Harry every 5 minutes, even if you can get an abortion in the 9th month, and even if you can take 1,000 patches and never get a period again, and never get pregnant, never get this and never get that, in the end, doesn't make you happy and doesn't make you have a worthwhile relationship. Do you see what I'm saying? So you see how like you get humbled the more Torah that you learn. So one of your survival kit things is to learn Torah, which Baruch Hashem, all you wonderful women, we really work hard on it. So that's number one. But number two, it's a nice idea, is tell your friends to come up to the class also. I know it sounds funny, but when you love somebody, spread the Torah. Tell them some of the ideas that you're learning. Spread it to your family. Sit at the table and say, guess what I learned today? You won't believe it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a nice piece of conversation. I'm being honest. It really is better than like just, you know what's on sale in Home Depot? You know, like, or, you know, you could get this and this, or where are we going on vacation? Like, those are all beautiful conversations. But Torah is a much deeper conversation. And if you could have friends and you could encourage them, I'm serious, they don't have to come to my class, come to any class. Let people learn Torah. And I'm going to tell you, most people don't do it unless someone else talks to them about it. It's true. You know, you bring a friend, it's a whole different ballgame. Okay, so now, that's going to help you, okay, with your desires, with all this, with fighting this Yetzer Hara, with your arrogance. Another thing that really helps arrogance and fighting these desires is chesed. How does doing kindness help you fight your arrogance?
You're doing it for someone else, not just for you.
Okay, two things. Wait, so Leora, and then I'm going to ask Barb because I want to hear both of you. So Leora, what did you say?
You're doing it with someone else, and it's not just all about you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, and Barb, what were you going to say?
Well, I said it gets you away from yourself. So
Yes, yes, yes.
And
Okay,
the two concepts are contradictory.
Say that again. Yes, giving to someone else, yes, is contradictory to your being filled with yourself and being so arrogant and think everybody has to come to you.
Have the kindness and be arrogant at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard. Like there's some people who will do it. Unfortunately, those are the people who sometimes like need their name in lights. Like if they did something and they do chesed, then they don't do it really, you know what I mean, from the heart, and they need like everybody's admiration and go, whoa, you're the best. You did this, you did that. But it's still, I'm telling you, the Torah tells you, at least it's still a step in the right direction. Just by having to give to someone else and to concentrate on other people's needs. Like that's why I hope tomorrow people will come to this dance for Jody, move for Jody. And if anybody could give a ride, I have somebody who needs a ride who lives by Bathurst and Steeles. And if anybody, could you contact me? I'll tell you who they are. That would be amazing if you could give someone a ride, because otherwise they can't come. But I'm just saying, like, this is the idea of chesed. When you give chesed, you come out of yourself. You become less arrogant. You become more humble, right? You have to give of your time. Like you're not the most important thing in the world. There's other people and things that are important. So therefore, chesed is very important. So really, when you wake up every day, it's important for you to do a chesed. So give me some ideas. No, I'm being honest right now. Give me some ideas of chesed you could do in a day. Okay, it doesn't mean always, going to a food bank and because you can't do it every day. You know what I mean? But what are some of the things you can do every day? Like what's a chesed you could do for another person all the time?
Smile.
Yeah, Gina's 100% right. I mean, I think we live in such a funny world. I find it like, you walk in the street and you're like, you could be staring at someone for 5 seconds and you still don't know what to do. Like you're looking at each other because I know with COVID, with this, with that, like we're all so confused. So we don't even know just to go, oh, evening, like you're both walking on the same sidewalk. People are taking walks, but nobody ever like sort of just goes, hi. You don't have to stop and talk for 10 hours just to even say hi. Like, does anybody notice that? Like you put your head down and try to pretend nobody sees anybody. It's like so funny. So yes. Okay, what's another chesed beside the smiling? I'm being honest.
Give a compliment.
Yes. Okay. He's on like they seem like it seems so funny and redundant that we say this all the time. But if we don't say it, guess what? We don't live in a world that thinks a lot. It doesn't think outside. It thinks like this. Let me put on music. Let me put on my ear pods. Let me look at my phone. But I don't look at the world. I don't look at the living world. I look at the tech world. Right? So you kind of like entertain yourself. But you forgot that there really is something called human beings. Like we forgot. I think it's very true, right? Right?
Phone
Like,
someone and see how they're doing.
okay, perfect. Phone someone and see how they're doing. Like it's simple. It's simple. So there's like those are all really good examples. Okay, so it's really good examples of chesed. Even if you give a couple cents in your tzedakah box. You did the mitzvah of charity, all these kinds of things. Look around and help people. Somebody drops something, look around, help, pick it up. Like, all these, like, I know it sounds funny, hold the door. Like all of these things are chesed, right?
There's a saying that how you treat an animal is a reflection on your amount of chesed.
Yeah, I can believe that that's true too. The Torah is like, actually the Torah is the first book that talked about animal rights. I'm being honest, right? Like if you see a donkey and it has a big heavy load, run to help and take it off. You have to feed your animals before you feed yourself. The Torah had a lot of that. Exactly why? Because that kind of thing is the beginning of chesed. And being kind to an animal, right? Especially when on farms, when people use these animals to work for them, that really takes. You can't be arrogant. If you're arrogant, then the way you treat your animals, the way you treat your workers, the way you treat anything, do you know what I mean? You think it's all, you own it. You're the boss of it. You can do whatever you want to it. Like it's totally the antithesis of what the Torah tells you. Okay, so beautiful. So one of the things that we're going to do is we are going to, one of the things that we're going to do is we are going to, what's it called? So we're going to work on our kindness. We're going to work on our Torah. So I want to tell you something about arrogance versus this idea of lusting and desiring things. Arrogance is a really hard character trait to work on. Okay, so it's one you want to really try to avoid because there's an element of arrogance that it almost can't stop. It feeds itself, like this wanting of honor. So how do you see it? Like, look at Joe Biden and President Trump. Okay, like Joe Biden is way past his prime, way past. Okay, he fumbles, he confuses time, he confuses dates, he stumbles, he falls on the stairs. He's like, he doesn't have the koyach to really be president, doesn't have the koyach to speak to the people. Like it's bad news, right? Bad news. But when they ask him, would you be willing to run again? What does he say? Yes. Wouldn't you, like, if you were him and you were his wife, wouldn't you say, let's bow out gracefully? Like, we've made enough boo-boos. The economy is terrible. The world is, is shaking. Like, there's shortages everywhere. People can't get Tylenol or antibiotics. Like, wouldn't you think at his age, he's had enough? The guy's been in politics, 50 or 60 years? Like, we're not talking, someone who didn't have his chance, right? He was a vice president for 8 years, and now we're president for 4 years. And since he's been there, everything has just tanked. So wouldn't it be smart? Like, let's be honest. Wouldn't it be so, what's the word? Like, generous.
Humbling.
Yeah, humbling and generous. Like, stand up and just say, you know what? Thank you, the American people. I've been here for you, but now I'm 80 something. I think it's time for someone, younger to take over. No, never wants to give up. And with Trump, like billionaire, this, that, it's enough. It's just not working. It doesn't look like it's going to work for him. Everybody's against him. Everybody's fighting. Every minute there's another ba-boom. Wouldn't it be better just to say, you know what? I really gave it my all. The 4 years that I was president, I accomplished more than most presidents, which was true. Okay, I settled the economy. We were energy efficient. It's enough. But why isn't it? Because
He's not content.
yeah,
He's-
with arrogance, once you want honor, it's almost impossible to stop. It's such a scary trait. You will destroy yourself and everyone around you just to get that honor, right? Okay, wait, so Talia, I think you have a good question. I'm just trying to see it. How do you combat not wanting to socialize? Okay, so that's something different, right? So I'll address that question later, but I don't think it has to do with arrogance. Do you think that has to do with arrogance? No, that's a different story. So we'll look at that question after. Okay, but right now when we're talking about the arrogance, so we have to know that that's a very, very hard nida. So what you want to do is you want to stop it as soon as you get it. As soon as you see it, you got to stop it because it's a very, it will eat you. Okay, it can mamish eat you alive, right? That's what the Torah tells you. It will take you out of this world. You will lose yourself, right? You could lose everyone around you. Like once you start demanding the respect and demanding that you notice me and demand, right? Like, can everybody see that I'm correct? Like anybody, yeah, these types, it's the end. Okay. So we're going to have to work. So what are you going to do? You got to work on your chesed. You got to work on what else would help you, which the Torah tells you this is going to be the number one thing that we have to work on to survive this period in history and to be on the other side. Does anybody know?
I don't know. Is it mercy?
Yeah, well, mercy is a hard one with arrogance. It's amuna. Okay. What's the amuna that you have to have? What would be the amuna that you have to combat your arrogance?
That Hashem is the one in charge.
Perfect. Okay, Hashem is the one in charge. Hashem is the one who gives money. Hashem is the one who gives this. Hashem is the one who gives that. The one that we have to honor the most is Hashem, right? And we have to honor every person because every person is in the image of Hashem, right? Arrogance is I'm bigger than God. I'm smarter than God. I know more than God. Do you know what I mean? And it's like Amuna is whoop. Better catch myself. So this is something that you would have to work very, very hard. The Torah tells you very hard. And in fact, it's very interesting. Rav Dessler tells you, it's very interesting what he says. He says, let's say with lust, it's an interesting idea when it comes to desires, lusting stuff and wanting stuff. So he says like certain lusts, you have like a few minutes. This is funny where you stop and you go, okay, this is just like too much. Like you can only drink so much until you're like, you can't do it, right? You can only take drugs so much and then you can't do it anymore. You can only eat so many steaks and it's like, right? So you've got like a couple hours. I know this sounds funny, but you have like a moment where it stops, where you can say, I just can't, like, I just can't. I don't have the energy. I don't have the koyach. I don't have the, those few minutes, you have a chance to maybe stop and do tshuva. Those few minutes, you see what I'm saying? Where if you get into the arrogant cycle, it's really tough. It's really,
I believe it might also include your language and keeping your voice quiet and hearing what's happening.
wow, that was great. That was absolutely great. Kina, that was so insightful. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. If you want to practice humility, what a beautiful way to practice it. Like you don't have to talk so loud. You don't have to be the big, take up all the air, and actually to be able to speak quietly and slowly and to what's it called. And really that's one of the big things that Pirkei Avos says. This idea like who's a wise person? They don't have to talk so much. They're bigger listeners than they are talkers. So interesting. And that kind of person, there's a humility in the fact that I don't have to be the whole story. And I know it's hard for us. I find, it's hard. You're having a conversation with somebody and they're talking about all their stuff and you get excited. And what do you want to do? Talk about all your stuff. So this is a good point. You know what I mean? Like, slow it down a little, let them finish their conversation, then talk about your stuff, So that was a very good insight. So thank you very much for that.
Listen, it's just listening more
Yes. Yes.
and being aware of what's around you.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So now if you look at certain things, you want to look at the two exiles that we were in. Okay, so it's very funny, like the two times that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed and where we got stuck. All right. So if you look at it, the first Beis Hamikdash that was destroyed because of idolatry, adultery, and murder. So what does that mean? Okay, really what that was, it was all desires. It was lusts, okay? People just wanted to do things they shouldn't be doing. They wanted to do adultery. So they started to serve idols because the idols, they made up, right? Like, this idol says you can do this kind of behavior, so it's not a big deal, right? Right? And then when people were trying to stop them from doing what they wanted, that's when the violence breaks in, right? When you want something, right, and then somebody starts to try to stop you, then you kill them. So that was where they were coming from. After 70 years, remember what I told you, you could stop and think when it comes to desires, right? There's this time you can think. So when Haman came, right, and said to the Jewish people, you're into your desires, let me just tell you what God's got up his sleeve. He's going to wipe you all out. They were able to do tshuva. Right? And what happened? The Jewish people were able to go back. The problem that we have is, anybody know why the second temple was destroyed? What was the main reason the second temple? Yeah, Sinat Chinam. Talia, what were you going to say?
Each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah, what were you going to say, Talia?
I thought it was Lashon Hara.
Oh, okay. So it's like Lashon Hara, because Lashon Hara, as they said, based a lot in baseless hatred. Okay, when you kind of like, you hate somebody for no real reason, right? There's no real reason you hate them. Probably you hate them honestly because they make you have to think about you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, like, when somebody really pretty comes into the room, like people go, oh, I wish I could kill her, like, oh, it just gets me so mad. So you ask yourself later, like, why was I so mad just because this like really gorgeous girl walked into the room? Why were we so mad?
Because we don't look like her.
Yeah, we don't look like her, and therefore
We're jealous.
yes. That like shots for that. I feel like it takes away from you. Okay, so that's kind of what happened. Baseless hatred is like, sometimes people are like, we're even of fellow Jews, you're a little bit jealous. You're jealous. You know what I mean? And when people are different than you, then it sometimes makes you have to think about yourself, like, oh, like, why? They think they're more religious. They think they're better than me. They think then they did, so it's very, very tough. Okay, so this one on baseless hatred has been with us for thousands of years. Like, we're still waiting for Moshiach. So part of our survival kit is being very aware that we shouldn't have baseless hatred. I mean, that we should be very careful. And we should try to love people, like, unconditionally, look at them as, another Tzelem Elokim, and not to feel threatened. I know it's hard. You go to someone's house and they have a prettier house than you and are better this than you, and they're going on vacation and blah, blah, blah. And they're just telling it to you, and they're not even telling it to stick you in the face. They're just talking. And there's this little thing growing inside going, wish I had that. And you got to go, boom. You got to stick it back down. That's okay. That's okay. You have what you need. They have what they need. You know what I mean? You have to talk to yourself. Like, I'm not kidding.
A good thing to do is to say that thank you prayer.
Yes.
Because you have exactly what Hashem gives you.
Beautiful. Okay, that's a beautiful idea, Barb. Okay, that's a beautiful anecdote, right? So you stop and you say the thank you prayer. I don't care what you have. That's your little world. I want to be happy for you. In fact, would be the opposite of baseless hatred would be, I'm actually happy for the other person. I'm happy for them, big gesund, like when they say that, right? Like mazel tov, bli ayin hara, should all be good. You know what I mean? Like I want to wish you well. It's like we have to work on these things. Like I'm being honest, we have to work on this stuff. Okay, we still have a lot of, we're still human. We're always going to have this body and soul struggle. And in this world, I think people have it so much worse. Like Baruch Hashem, I don't know how to use Facebook. Somebody else does it for me. I don't know how to use Facebook. I don't know how to use WhatsApp. I don't know how to use these things. Like, I don't know how it is for people to like scroll around and see everybody's amazing this and they're amazing that, which I all think is all false. And it really should be called fake book. I really do think so. Because, they show you at the pool. And then if they had the bubble over the head, it would say like, I'm so mad we have to be in this stupid picture, right? Everything has to look so perfect, like these like wedding pictures and the wedding videos, like everything has to be,
I think perhaps believe that we have to be aware how hurtful it can be for the person listening and hearing about all these wonderful things.
Yeah.
And
like
it takes a tremendous amount of self-control to sort of hold it in and be aware of it.
Yes.
And then try to move in the direction of being happy for it.
Yes, I agree. I so agree with you, Gina.
But the hurtfulness is there.
Yes, I agree. So this is like, this would be your number one, like one of your number one, like pieces of equipment in your survival kit. Okay. This is like number one. You want to get to the other side. You want to be on that side with Moshiach. You want to be part of those 20%. This is a huge piece of your survival kit. All right. To be able to.
It happened to me just today. Somebody was just telling me they're going on this trip and they're going to be with their family and they're going to be traveling. And I'm just sitting there saying, uh-huh. And then I said, out of, I don't know where, I'm really happy for you. And I hope you have a really happy, healthy trip.
That's so nice.
And they were so grateful to hear that.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem. So that's beautiful. That's like a survivor. You know what I mean? No, I mean, I'm being honest.
I don't think the people who tell those things to others are aware of the depth of the hurt they can give others.
Yes, I agree. I think 100%. There are those, exceptions who like are very excited to, show you their diamonds. There are some, but I wouldn't say, I say the majority of people are not, right? And even the ones who are doing that, it's probably, a lack of self-confidence. So yeah, you're right. Okay, beautiful. So that's a good way to be looking at it, to be able to feel good about it. So the Torah tells you like this: if you are being tested, okay, so this is a perfect example. Gina was being tested. There's something to talk about. If you are being tested, right, in these areas, like you get a situation where somebody's telling you this kind of stuff and it can start to make you angry or start to make you feel frustrated and like, how could they say that? Don't they have any sensitivity? The Torah tells you
just sadness.
Yeah, or even sadness. The Baal Shem Tov tells you that was coming from Hashem. That was coming from Hashem. Isn't that interesting? Now, somebody asked me a very good question. They said, like, what about if it hurt you? Could you complain about it? If you have a very good friend who you need to talk things through, definitely. You could just tell, first of all, you don't always have to say the name. You could just say, this happened to me today. A person said this, and I just need some insight because I'm really feeling bad. Do you know what I mean? And then like hopefully the friend that you pick, like what we always say, konel lecha chaver, be very careful. You got to buy you have to make big purchases, right? You check. Right? Like I've been going nuts picking all this stuff for this house. Okay. Because when you're spending a lot of money, right? You get nervous. Like you don't want to just waste it. You don't just throw it out on anything. You're gonna be very picky. So yes, you do feel badly, then it's good to have a good friend who could listen to you and love you unconditionally. Even if you say, I had these jealous feelings, they go, that's okay. That's pretty normal. Let's talk about it. But if you really look at it, you know what? You're bigger than that. And that's what
your best friend is Hashem.
Yeah. That was beautiful. So this is what the Torah is telling you. Okay, this is what the Torah is telling you, that when Hashem sends you a test, these things are tests. Okay, these kinds of people coming into your life, these kinds of things happening, they're all tests from Hashem. So the Baal Shem Tov said, look at it, this is interesting, as an opportunity for a promotion. Hashem is saying, like when they want to give a promotion on the job, they sometimes will give somebody a harder project. If the guy gets the project, he gets like a big bonus. So that's what Hashem is doing. Okay. So sometimes like, instead of just like getting angry and taking it in your pride, and it's hard, like, none of us are fooling ourselves. We're not a generation that is like, okay, whatever, Hashem. Like, it hurts. These feelings hurt. But the feelings, again, they're just informing you. You make decisions on what you do with these feelings. The feelings don't control you. You control the feelings. Yes, they sent you information. I feel my ego's bruised, right? I feel like, why did they say that? But I can make a decision with it. But on the other hand, I'm not an arrogant idiot. And Hashem is telling me, you know what? Behave differently. It'll be better for you, right? And for the world. Yeah, Barb?
No, so I just learned that a test, you take it as a testimony. Put it as a testimony.
Beautiful way of saying it. A test is a testimony to who you are. That's beautiful. That's what you're saying. Yeah, Barb? A test is a testimony to who you are. That's really good. That's a very beautiful idea. Okay. So now let's think. We're going to learn Torah. We're going to pass it around. It's going to help us with our arrogance. It's the antidote to the Yetzer Hara. We're going to do tzedakah, right? So that we'll be more humble. We'll be more full of humility. We're going to look at our desires and we're going to put them in check. And we're going to realize that if we let go and we get into them, there is always a moment with the desires where you go, okay, that's enough. And when you say that's enough, start thinking, okay? And start trying to do tshuva and start trying to put them in order. Okay. And every test is a testimony to who you are. Okay, now, Rav Tzadok HaKohen, he said, here is the rewards. Okay, so Torah doesn't always tell you the rewards of a mitzvah, but here the Torah tells you why it wants to motivate you. That's why. Okay, so it's very interesting. If you can overcome anger, it's a very interesting gift. You get parnasa. That's very interesting. If you can overcome anger, you get sustenance. That's very interesting. I think because anger, they say, is like idol worship. And the idol you're worshiping is who? Yourself.
It edges God out.
Anger. Yeah, it edges, right. Beautiful. Edges God out, right? And you end up worshiping yourself. That's why it's called idol worship, right? It's all about your ego, right? So it says, if you can overcome anger, Hashem will help you with parnasa. It's a very nice idea, okay? And anger, it's interesting. Why? Because Hashem is giving you this opportunity, right? Because anger is also arrogance. Anger and arrogance are very tightly, connected, right? Usually you get very angry because somebody, touched your ego. That's really the truth. For most of the time, that's what it is. Like, how dare they say that to me? And how could they be late? And it's me that was supposed to get picked up. Right? There's that part of you. So the Torah says, I give you more parnasa. What should you do with more parnasa? It's not for you to become more arrogant. That's for sure not. What is God giving you more parnasa for?
Give more charity.
Amazing. And then if you give more charity, then Hashem gives you more parnasa. So it's like a nice cycle. Okay. So it's just a nice story. Now, what about you controlled your lust? Like you really want to talk Lashon Hara and you bit your lip. Like it's a hard, you're like, I'm just not going to say it, right? Or whatever, you wanted to watch something you really shouldn't. Like all of us like to go, oh, that movie's not so bad. And then you start watching and you go, like I wouldn't want my kid to watch me watch this movie. Okay, right? So let's say you say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. That's it, God. I get it. This is not really appropriate. I'm not doing it. You should know I really want to. You should know this is what I want to watch. But I'm not watching it. Not. So what does Hashem say? He gives you protection. That's so nice. Just like you protected yourself, you protected your eyes, you protected your neshama. You protect yourself, Hashem will give you protection. And I don't know about you guys, but I want Hashem's protection. No, don't we all? Oh my gosh, like that's a great gift. Okay, so that's just another nice thing that you should know. Like it's nice to know what you can get. And so now I will just give you what I told you right from the beginning. Okay, so the grandson of the Baba Sali is Rav David Abu Chatzera. Okay, so a great tzaddik, alive today, amazing tzaddik. I think my son-in-law took a mission to Israel with a lot of people from the different Sephardi shuls, and they actually went to see him. Okay, so he's a really great big tzaddik. So this great big tzaddik, he was concerned with everything that's going on in the world. Like, right? So a couple years ago, he went to Rav Steinman, who was the great Ashkenazi tzaddik, okay? So he went to, like, the Baba Sali is the great, right, Sephardi tzaddik, and really everybody's tzaddik. And the great Ashkenazi is Rav Steinman, and he's also everybody's tzaddik. So this Rav David Abu Chatzera went to him, and he said, like, how are we going to make it? Like, how are we going to make it through this? Like, the world is changing so drastically, and it is. It really is. Like I said, we've squeezed ourselves in between it. So we're sort of thinking like, no, all right, we'll get used to this. But it's not something we should be getting used to, right? So he said, like, how are we going to survive? So he said the only thing that he could see is that everybody is going to have to work very hard to work on their emunah and to put their faith in Hashem. Like, not to put your faith in human beings. They're not going to be able to come through for you. You're going to have to put your faith, very much like what Gina said. In the end, who will be your best friend? Hashem. Like, put your faith in Hashem. 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 Say it 1,000 times over, but it's the only way we're going to survive it. Like, there's just so much inside our heads battling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. How are we going to stay focused? We have to put our faith in Hashem. That's where we're going to have to put our mind. And it's not so simple, because putting faith in Hashem takes what? Like, always remember this, Emunah is not a noun, it's a verb. So what does it take?
Work. Takes a lot of work.
It takes a lot of work and takes a lot of thought. So if you look, they say one of the greatest ways that the Yetzer Hara gets people is he keeps you so busy, he doesn't give you time to think. So that you're never stopping and saying, like, am I growing? Am I becoming a better person? Have I changed? Or like 1 year just is like slipping into the next, and all I see is a new wrinkle. But I don't see anything new about me. You know what I mean? Or about my relationships. I'm doing the same old thing day and night, day and night. Like, it never makes you go, wait a minute, maybe I want to branch out this way. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe, you know what, Hashem, I want a new relationship with you. I want something stronger. I want to do a little more chesed. You know what I mean? Like, so how do you see in the world that we live in today, like, I'm asking you this really honestly, that the Yetzer Hara is keeping people so busy? What is the majority of people so busy with?
On their phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
On their phones. So like, it's interesting, like they actually say, give yourself a test. Like it's probably good. Like I try to do it a couple times in the day. Like, I'll let the phone ring and I won't pick it up. I'll let the text bing and I won't necessarily run to see it, because otherwise I find myself like, my phone is my alarm. Anybody use your phone for the alarm in the morning?
Yeah.
Because I'm really not really good with technology. So the fact that I even figured out how to do that, sometimes I go out and buy these alarm clocks, I can't figure out how to set them. Okay, so I set my phone, right? But what I noticed is I never would do this before. Like, I'll say Moda'ani and I'll want to look at the phone. Do you know what I mean? Like, the first thing I'll want to do is pick up the phone. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And actually look at it. Like, not just pick it up and shut the alarm off. It's like, pick it up and, oh, maybe I should check my emails and check my, you know what I mean? And then I realized, like, no, it's an alarm clock. Like, you know what I mean? Because this is one of our biggest problems. And when we aren't thinking, right, then everything you're doing is only half baked. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's hard. Like, if you're having conversations with people, but you're looking at the phone, then what kind of conversation is it really? Right? It's only half baked. And if we get so used to, like, sometimes, like, you're like, even when I'm davening, I have to take the phone and put it outside of the room. It's not that I would pick it up during the fact that I'm davening, but just it being there, right? They have done studies, like, they don't want kids to taking tests with a phone next to you. Even if you're not cheating, they can't concentrate. Like, every few seconds.
The total distraction.
The total distraction. So I'm just being honest, like here, like we didn't go through the whole thing. We'll do the rest of this next week because this is just part of the survival kit. We'll fill in the rest next week. But a good part of the survival kit is you're going to have to be able to think. You know what I mean? Like,
I use my phone for Torah all the time. I come
Yeah.
home, when I cook, I've got,
okay, so that's very, very good. It's amazing. But even that, I'm being honest, it's got to be for all of us a quiet time
Yeah.
where we can be happy being with ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Because like there's something even about like I have to be listening to Torah. It's just like not. It's a good thing, Barb. I'm not like chas v'shalom. Like I also do it. I do it a lot, all the time. And lately, like today, actually, I was able to just say, you know what? I can be by myself. I can just, you know what I mean? Have quiet. I don't have to have anybody talking to me. I just want to be. You sure? I know that sounds funny. I just want to be in the moment. I just want to be able to say, you know what, Hashem, thank you. You know, I'm sitting on my chair and I'm drinking something and I'm just grateful. And I don't want to think about anything else. I don't want anyone else's stuff going in my head, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. Okay, is everybody hears, right? So this is part of, and it makes a lot of sense that this is what we're going to have to be working at, because here the Yetzer Hara is trying to do the exact opposite. It's trying to make all of our minds mesh into one thing, and whatever the message, the flavor of today, whatever the woke message is, all of us will follow it blindly because we won't have any other time to think. Things will be flashing in front of us until we just absorb it without even thinking. Right? We'll just say yes to anything anyone says. Okay, you say this is right. So that's why we need time to go, wait a minute. I don't follow that Walton Shang. I live in a different world. Right? And
We're really victims to technology.
Yes, we are. And unless we really, and they showing you now, right? Now that what Elon Musk bought Twitter, he is exposing what Twitter was doing. Right. And cutting out pieces of information and cutting people out and only letting this be said and only letting that be said. And when somebody said over and over, that's what Hitler said. How was really Hitler in the beginning did not pull a bullet. It was only words. There was no bullets. It was words that got him into power. Right? So that's what I'm saying. And you hear the same words over and over and over and over. Okay, so someone asked me a question and it's, how do you combat not wanting to socialize? So the question is like, why that would be. So first of all, I think socializing, I'm just gonna be really honest, especially today, I would say try to socialize in circles that are very accepting and loving. You know what I mean? Today, the world can be very harsh. Like, the same thing with like, with your kids. Like, I wouldn't say to your kids, like, go to places, you know what I mean? That are socially sort of threatening, that are not really your ideals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we need to do that because today we're not dealing in a world that is so welcoming. They welcome you only if you agree with what they have to say. Do you know what I mean? So go into places where people are kinder and more loving. And I would it's like I'd start there. Do you know what I mean? Right. And if it's too many people, then go to something smaller. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you can't go to a party with 15 people. So when there's an event that has 10 people or 3 people, do you know what I mean? Or even try inviting one person over to your house. Do you know what I mean? And just starting slow, right? But that's the way I would do it, right? Instead of like putting yourself into any kind of mischievous kind of company that can just end up hurting you. It's not worth it. Or that can, give you some kind of anxiety that you're not ready to control. So that's just a question. I think it sort of goes in, but it could be on the other side. Could be just like a little bit off topic, but that's fine. Okay, so now I have to send Emir Hashem to I'm going to stop this recording.